The alarms were the first thing to return, a dissonant chorus of alien warbles and shrieks that pierced the fog in his head. Then came the smell, acrid and chemical, laced with the metallic scent of blood and ozone. Finally, sensation, the cold, unyielding deck plating against his cheek, the sharp, throbbing pain in his side, and a profound, gut-wrenching weightlessness where his ship's familiar hum should have been. He was Peters, crewman second class, and he was marooned. Memory flooded back in jagged pieces. The Deep Space Patrol, the ambush, the Vigilant, his small Earth Coalition corvette, caught in the gravitational shear of a mine, its engines crippled. The larger vessel that emerged from the dark, its silhouette a jagged, predatory thing of sharp angles and pulsing violet energy lines, a Zarati warship. A final desperate order to abandon ship, the scream of tearing metal, then oblivion. He was inside the belly of that predator now. Pushing himself up with a groan, Peters took in his surroundings. He was in a narrow service corridor, lit by a harsh, purple-tinged light. Conduits snaked along the walls, and the air was thin, burning his lungs slightly. He was alone, but the sounds of the ship were everywhere. The thrum of engines, distant shouts in guttural Zarati, the relentless sirens. His training, drilled into him through countless simulations, took over. Assess, adapt, survive. His sidearm was gone, but his utility belt was intact. A multi-tool, a short-range comms unit dead in the enemy's jamming field, and a compact med kit. He patched the shallow gash on his side, the sealant foam cold and tight. The goal was clear, though impossible. Find a way off the ship, or failing that, make his presence costly. He moved like a ghost, sticking to shadows, using the ship's own chaotic damage reports as cover. He passed viewports showing the chilling vista of stars and the drifting, shattered hull of the Vigilant. A cold fury settled in his chest. For hours, he played a deadly game of hide-and-seek. He avoided patrols, sabotaged miter power conduits to cause distracting overloads, and once hid in a fetid waste reclamation alcove as two hulking Zarati warriors clanked past, their armored boots shaking the deck. It was during one of these narrow evasions that he saw her. Through a transparent bulkhead into a command nexus, he observed the Zarati commander. She was tall, even by her species standards, her chitinous plating a deep obsidian streaked with command red. 4 powerful arms moved with precise economic grace over tactical displays. Her face, with its large, compound eyes and sharp mandibles, was unreadable, but the set of her shoulders spoke of immense strain. This was the architect of the ambush, the reason his friends were dead and floating in the void. Hatred, hot and immediate, boiled in him. He had a shaped charge left in his kit, scavenged from a damaged panel. He could rig it, wait for her to be alone, and end it. The thought was a dark comfort, but he didn't. He turned away, his mission shifting. He needed a shuttle, a life pod, anything. His sabotage became more targeted, seeking navigation data or access codes. He finally found a small auxiliary hangar bay, housing a single, sleek scout vessel. It was his chance. He was halfway through bypassing the launch door controls when the bay lights flared to full intensity. He spun, his multi-tool raised like a pathetic weapon. She stood in the entrance, not with a squad, but alone. 2 of her hands held a formidable energy rifle, leveled at his chest. The other 2 were empty, held slightly away from her body. They stood in silence. Human and Zarati, predator and prey, the only sound the distant pulse of the ship's drive. "You are the one causing the system ghosts," she said. Her voice a synthesized translation from the clicks and rasps of her native tongue. Cool and devoid of inflection, Peter said nothing, his mind racing through futile options. "You destroyed the Vigilant. You killed my crew," he finally stated, his own voice rough with thirst and anger. A tactical necessity. Your ship was in a restricted zone, she replied. Your persistence, however, is illogical. You have been aboard for 9 cycles. You accessed secondary systems. You reached this bay. Yet you chose not to act. She took a step closer, her rifle unwavering. My private chamber is adjacent to the command nexus. You passed its environmental control conduit 3 cycles ago. A focused overload that would have vented the atmosphere from both rooms. A crude but effective assassination. The data log shows a foreign tap on that line. You touched it. Yet you severed the connection. You did nothing. Peters froze. He remembered the conduit. He had seen the opportunity, had even initiated the bypass. But he had also seen, through another viewport, a small framed hologram in her sparse chamber. It was not of weapons or battles, but of a Zarati child, its plating still soft and pale. He had thought of his own sister, Ganymede, and he had cut the wire. Why? The commander asked, the single word hanging in the air. She lowered her rifle, not out of trust, but out of a profound, confused curiosity. You had the chance to kill your enemy, to achieve a measure of vengeance. Why did you not kill me? The question echoed in the silent bay. Peters slowly straightened up, dropping the multi-tool to the deck with a clatter. The fight drained out of him, replaced by a weary, brutal honesty. Because it wouldn't have been vengeance, he said, his voice low. It would have been murder. The commander's compound eyes regarded him, unblinking. Explain the distinction. An enemy is an enemy. On the battlefield, maybe, Peters conceded, rubbing his face. But that wasn't the battlefield. That was your room. I saw the picture of the child. A slight tremor, almost imperceptible, went through one of her empty hands. My offspring. She is irrelevant to this. Not to me, Peters said, the words surprising even him. Killing a warrior in a fight is one thing. Killing a parent in their sleep? Making that kid an orphan because I was angry and scared? That's not why we're out here. At least, it's not why I'm out here. We're supposed to be better than that. Even here. Especially here. The Zarati commander was utterly still. The concept was alien, filtering through her tactical, survival-based logic. Mercy was a calculable risk, sometimes offered for intelligence or leverage. This was not that. This was a renunciation of a clear tactical advantage based on an abstract, emotional principle. You forfeit your survival for a philosophy, she stated. Not as a question, but as a stunned conclusion. I didn't forfeit anything. I just chose not to become the monster you probably think I am, Peters replied. He gestured to the scout ship behind him. I was trying to escape, not murder you. For a long moment, she studied him. The sirens had stopped, leaving an eerie quiet. Then, she made a series of sharp clicks into her wrist comb. The main hangar bay doors remained sealed, but a smaller personnel airlock near the scout ship hissed and cycled open, revealing the pristine, airless black of space and the glittering field of stars beyond. That scout is programmed for a return course to the nearest Zarati garrison. It will not help you, she said. She pointed a lower hand toward the open airlock. But that is an ejection pod. Manual launch. Its navigation is simple. It has a distress beacon on a civilian band. Peters stared, not understanding. You are correct, the commander said, her translated voice softer now. We are not monsters. We are warriors. There is a difference, though my people sometimes forget. Today, you reminded me. Go. Your beacon will be heard by your people before my crew can track it. Hope, fragile and terrifying, surged in Peters' chest. He moved toward the airlock, then paused, looking back at the formidable alien silhouette. Why? Why are you doing this? She tilted her head, a gesture he could not interpret. Because you saw a child, and not a target. Because in 9 cycles, you sought only to escape, not to ravage. And because you answered my question. She turned to leave, her armor glinting in the harsh light. The universe has enough death, human. Today, we will add a different story. Peters did not wait. He climbed into the pod, a cramped sphere of cold metal. As the inner hatch sealed, he saw her through the viewport, watching. He activated the launch. The pod shot into the silent, star-filled night. Behind him, the jagged warship grew smaller, a dark tooth against the nebula. In front of him, the stars were just stars, not targets, not threats. He activated the beacon, a simple, repeating pulse of peace not alone in the cosmos. Peters finally allowed himself to shake. He had not fought a great battle. He had not slain a mighty foe. He had been marooned and scared, and in a moment of crushing decision, he had simply remembered his own humanity. And in doing so, he had, perhaps, helped an enemy remember hers. It was not a victory of weapons, but a victory of an idea. And as his pod drifted toward the shipping lanes, he knew, with a quiet certainty, that it was the more powerful kind.